back with another episode of Better Pet Parenting. And this week we are going to discuss something that we get asked a lot on our DMs. And I thought who better than bringing on an expert in nutrition to talk about all of this. So this week we're going to have Arpita from Eternal Canine joining us. Arpita is a canine nutritionist who's based in the US but currently is living in India because of the lockdown and stuff and figuring that out. She's been somebody who's been really active on Instagram talking about all the myths that surround canine nutrition. And I thought it would be great to have her on the show and discuss what these myths are and how you can kind of understand them better. So I'm just going to invite her to the room and then we can get started. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Arpita. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good as well. How are things at your end?
They're great. Everything is great.
Awesome. So I was just, talking a little bit about a lot of questions that come up around nutrition. So I think let's get into it. But before, it'll be great if you can introduce yourself and your qualifications and stuff to everybody watching, so that they are, they understand your process and stuff better once they get to know you as well.
Yeah. So actually, I did my certifications last year online. It actually started when one of my dogs, Danny, had this chronic skin issue this 1.5 year back, and she was prescribed antibiotics and so many medicines and all, which I was not comfortable giving up, because even at that point I knew that I don't want to feed her all these medicines and I can treat her by just changing her diet.
Right.
I knew that's something that I can change, like nutrition wise. So I just started studying about nutrition and researching my own stuff and all, and then I stumbled upon some certifications online that I found, and I was in India at that time.
Yeah.
I was visiting for my sister's wedding. And I got the certifications done online through universities in US and Canada. And here I am now.
Awesome. How has that whole process been? I'm sure lockdown in any case has been, life-changing for everybody. But you've basically started a whole new career, right? I don't think you were in the pet care space before this, right? And it's just your passion to take care of your dog that kind of pushed you this route. How has that journey been for you? How difficult or easy is it to become a nutritionist, and what are the kind of things that you have to go through to become certified?
To get certified was very simple, but later it had become tough because, certification is just like theoretical, right? But when you go into the practical application side of it is when you realize that every dog is so unique.
Right.
And I was a financial analyst before.
So you're used to models, for sure. Now I understand.
So I'm applying that knowledge here. So earlier I was balancing balance sheets, so now I'm balancing the diets for dogs.
Macros and nutrients, love it.
So that has really helped me actually to understand the whole process and developing different kinds of models based on health issues or life stages of dogs as well. So like I said, the practical application part of it is quite difficult because every dog is unique. Every dog is facing some or the other issue, and there is so much of overlap between human and canine diseases today. You see every kind of disease in dogs that we humans face. Like there's heart disease, there's obesity, kidney problems, liver problems, and I think compared to humans, dogs are not that resilient.
Right. Okay.
That's the very difficult part.
I think the other thing that we get asked a lot, because you're talking about diseases that humans and dogs also have, is corona as well, right? I think for a lot of people, it has been a revelation that dogs already have a version of the coronavirus and they have a vaccination that you kind of give them when they're puppies. I think so. That's also something that, our world is kind of grappling with now, that there are so many of these, there's this whole spectrum of viruses that can infect animals as well as just disclaimer, by the way, COVID-19 is not known to affect dogs, just in case somebody
Yes,
misinterprets me
yes.
on
They
this.
have misinterpreted in the past, and so
Yeah.
many people have abandoned their dogs, which was
Correct, correct,
thought.
correct. Yeah, so it's been a really tough year, I think, from that perspective, and just understanding how the human world can impact dogs. And I think nutrition is a very big part of that as well, right? Which is
Yeah,
why I thought it would be great to do this. So, in terms of your process as well, right? For anybody who's not familiar with Arpita's process, there's a very detailed form that you need to fill out around, what your dog's general health is like, whether they have any past issues with diseases, what their blood
yeah,
reports are kind of like. Can you
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that process and how it factors into the plans that you make?
Yeah. So in the form, there are very like I asked the dog parents to mention even the smallest possible things or changes that they might have noticed.
Right,
Also, the structure is whether they are well built, whether they are thin. That also plays a huge role. Then what are the activity levels like? Do they play for 2 hours, 1 hour? So that because that also helps me in calculating the caloric requirements of each dog.
right, right,
Uh, and then what supplements they are on, what medicines they are on. These are quite like all of these questions you must have seen my form. It includes everything.
yeah,
Then I also ask dog parents to get a blood test done, like a full panel blood test, which includes CBC, LFT, TFT, even thyroid if there are skin issues and all, which is
right.
before we start with a plan, and maybe like 2 months later to
Mm-hmm.
see if we are on the right track.
Got it.
And some dog parents are quite proactive, I must say, because they get these tests done quite frequently.
Mm-hmm.
They will do it every month, and then they will send me the report. And depending on that, I will either tweak things, or we'll know whether like we are on the right track or not. So that's
Right.
really important.
Right. So typically, I mean, I'm sure you see a lot of different types of pet parents as well, right? From people like me personally, who I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with, having a nutritionist help me with my dog's diets, right? We've kind of bungled along the way with our older dogs, and now I have a puppy, and now I want to be more diligent. But what do you kind of see, right, in terms of what should be the ideal behavior from a nutritionist perspective, right? How do you envision pet parents in an ideal world kind of planning their dog's meals, and at what stages should they be considering going back to it again and revising it?
Yeah. I feel that there's so much advancement in dog space now because everything is available so easily. Like you have an app,
Right. Mm-hmm.
you have these features and services available now, and there are trainers as well online, and there are nutritionists online. We did not have that. Like I remember when I got my first dog, when I adopted her, there was nothing.
Yeah.
We used to kibble and everything, and we thought that was the best thing we could give to
Mm-hmm.
dogs. So this is something that dog parents should take advantage of. All these
Mm-hmm.
services that are made available now, and it's only going to get much better. I think it's already
Right.
so great.
Yeah.
And like I said, dog parents need to be a little more proactive in the sense that they should get blood tests done regularly. The first and foremost thing is that when they get a puppy, that's when they should start like training them, speaking to a nutritionist on whether what could be right and wrong for their dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they really feed the right kind of food to their dogs at the very early stage, I think they'll be set up for really like amazing things in life later on. They will
Right.
not have it. They might still have like some form of diseases, or they might still have some issues, but many of the things will be prevented for sure.
Understood. So basically, you kind of remove the human error aspect, right, from it. That
Yes.
things you think are okay to do, but actually there's science that tells you that you probably shouldn't.
Yeah,
Which is great. Yeah. Yeah.
because now dog parents are coming to a nutritionist after 4 years of feeding wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
So the damage is already done. Now there is
Right.
damage control and fixing things, and that
Understood.
gets really difficult later on
Yeah.
in life. But you
Yeah.
start out when you get a puppy. If you
Mm-hmm.
started out right and you have a plan of action ready, you can also speak to your nutritionist or trainer as well regarding what plan of action to follow.
Yeah.
There are many dog parents who are constantly in touch with me. They keep me in loop. They'll send emails, and they will get on a call with me, and they really are very proactive,
Hmm.
planning things how they want to,
Yeah.
what they want their focus to be. whether they want to focus the hips and joints, whether they want to focus the skin issues. So that's how we plan along the way. That's,
Understood.
I think, would be an ideal pet parent.
Right. So you kind of set a goal before you make the plan as well. Is it that you what is your expected outcome from having a certain kind of nutrition plan? Is that the case?
Actually, not all dog parents are that proactive
Okay.
and involved. They just take a diet plan and they're gone. But
Right.
most of them are quite involved in the entire process,
Mm-hmm.
and they want a plan of action. They want to know where this is going to take them and how they're going to tweak things along the way.
Understood.
So I do work along with them.
Understood. So basically, it could be somebody who just wants a little bit of guidance on how they should plan meals if they're giving home cooked meals, or it could
Yeah,
even be somebody who's a lot more involved and wants to give the best possible care at every step of the way as well. But you kind of
yes,
help anybody along that different kind of spectrum, right? Because everybody has a different way of thinking about
yes,
it. Awesome. So that sounds. I think that's really helpful. And if people have questions around the process or any questions, please feel free to type in the chat as well. What we're going to do for this discussion is we thought we'd talk about the top 3 myths around nutrition, right? And I'm
mhm,
saying myths because these are all things that I know I've believed at some point, right? And until somebody has actually said that actually, logically, if you think about it, it's not going to be the case, right? And then it kind of clicks that, yeah, actually, why did I never think of that? If it's not true for humans, then why would it be true for any other living being as well, right?
yeah.
So let's just go into those questions, and then we'll kind of take questions along the way, right? So the first one, which is I think probably the most popular question asked, is around kibble, right? And I'll tell you where this question came from as well, because I know that growing up when we've gotten dogs and whenever we've gone to the vet, the first person you kind of ask for advice is always your vet, because they're that one
Yeah.
person who has that authority in your life. Um, More often than not, the suggestions that come your way are to start with, kibble, because it is easier maybe for vets to give that advice, and it is easier for you to also start with that kind of diet. Um, what is your take on this thought, right? That kibble takes care of all nutrient requirements. I'm sure there are many aspects to this question as well, so I'm just going to let you take control of how you want to answer this.
So kibble does take care of nutrient requirements, but there's a catch to it. Like,
Hmm.
just imagine if we humans are eating processed food every day. Let's take, for example, there is a like, packaged processed potato chips, which
Right.
are laced with synthetic nutrients. They are taking care of all your nutrient needs. They are synthetic nutrients, but
Hmm.
just imagine whether you will be doing great on that food or any kind of other fresh food.
Hmm.
And this simple thing took us so long to understand that that could be bad for dogs, because even pet parents argue there's another myth that a premium kibble food is better than low quality, but it is still
Yeah.
highly processed, because the kind of processing that this kibble goes through, it's called extrusion cooking.
Hmm.
And what happens is that it leads to complete loss of all the nutrients. So what they have to do is they have to add all kinds of synthetic nutrients to it, including amino acids, which build up the proteins.
Right.
Uh, so if you are eating all kinds of synthetic nutrients every single day along with this kind of processed food, it's going to be detrimental to your health in the long run.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think dogs are quite intuitive. Like, they give up on kibble after some time, because I think they know that it's not good. It's not good for their health. Also, kibble is laced with, I mean, they put this artificial colorants, preservatives, chemicals,
Hmm.
uh, this palatable, some flavoring they add,
Hmm.
which is all, it can't be great for anyone. And we are actually feeding one of the best species in the world this really bad food for so long. So, yeah, even if
Right.
it has all the nutrients, it's of no use.
Yeah. Understood. So I think that's a very practical way to think about it as well, right? If you were to eat, if I were to eat like a perfect balance of say potato chips and
All
processed
the,
like chicken nuggets
yeah,
and whatever frozen vegetables at all times, I mean, forget. I'm sure there'll be health implications, but I wouldn't feel like I'm eating anything good for sure. So I'm sure there is that science that backs this as well, right? Are there any
yeah.
studies that have been done around this? just so that, you know, anybody who has a doubt also, we're completely being transparent about कि ये prove हो चुका है तुमने पढ़ना है तो we can always send that reading across as well.
There has been a study of kibble versus raw food, raw meat-based diet, and they have concluded that the raw meat-based diet is better for the gut health.
Okay.
Means that the microbiome much healthier compared to kibble food. So yeah, better gut is a better health, right?
Awesome. So I think it'll be, I mean, for anybody who wants to read up on this report as well, you can always DM us and we'll share that with you. But yeah, I mean, always good to share knowledge with everybody who's curious about it as well. Awesome. So that was myth number 1, right? Now myth number 2 is around home food, right? And this is a very, it's very interesting for me, at least. You know, I'm pretty new in this space as well, so I'm trying to educate myself about what the culture is like in India versus other countries, right? And now you see in the US and other European countries that there is a movement towards home cooked and natural diets for dogs, right? Yeah. Whereas in India, we have actually always had home food. It may not be, you know, very thought of in terms of, am I giving the right nutrients? But there has been, I mean, I think there's a stat that says that I think 95% of food given to dogs in India is home food, right? So that's whatever we eat minus the spices and stuff at home that we give, right? Rice, chapati, etc., etc. Whereas now in India, there is this upsurge of, you know, packaged products that are coming up and stuff. So I think that's kind of why that confusion exists, right? Is it difficult to meet your dog's nutrition requirements through home food? How would you take that?
Yeah, it is quite difficult, but if you get it completely balanced with the help of a nutritionist, it takes discipline and it takes time. Right. It's not as easy as opening a packet and just pouring it into the bowls, right? Of course, if you do a meal prep on the weekend for the week ahead, then yeah, you just need to pour it out. But there are so many things lacking in a home cooked diet, especially depends on what you're cooking and feeding. Like if you're giving them carbs, then of course there's so much lacking in their diet, and just adding a multivitamin pill won't do it. Right. Feeding a meat-based diet, yes, that's great, but it still does not balance out everything that a dog needs. Right. And if what I have observed is that even a little bit of lack of this and that nutrient can cause a huge impact on a dog's health, especially in the puppy stage. Like if you take care of these when they are still a puppy, they will have good stores of vitamins and minerals going ahead in life, and then during the adult stage, it would be like amazing. Like they will not have too many issues. But what, like you mentioned about people in US and Europe and everything. So what I have observed is that people in US, they're much more responsible so far as balancing the diet goes. Like I don't think that they will ever take a diet plan or a diet recipe from a nutritionist not completely balanced or covers every single nutrient. But I don't see that in India yet. Of course, we will get there at some point, but with the help of a nutritionist, you can get the plan completely. And,
got it.
Especially in a meat diet, it is quite easy, I guess.
Understood. So you're basically trying to differentiate between home food, meaning entirely vegetarian food, versus home food also meaning a meat-based diet, right? So you're saying if you were to kind of put it on a scale, it's difficult to meet all nutrients with a vegetarian diet. It's easier to do it with a meat-based diet. But there'll still be some deficiencies that you will need to meet, and that happens through proper planning and getting the help of an expert who can kind of guide you on that path, right?
Yeah. But vegetarian food is also not that bioavailable. Like they will not be able to use up those vitamins and minerals in the veg diet as they can do with a meat-based diet. So that is also one of the key differences, is that even if you're feeding a vegetarian diet that is balanced, your dog may not be able to do this properly for his growth. Meat diet is something. Yeah.
So meat diet, you're saying absolutely 100% have to be the case. And then it depends on how you are kind of planning those meals out with the help of an expert, right? Understood. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think another question that's just coming to me and based off of this, right, is so there are different types of diets as well, right? um, even in the course of this conversation, we've kind of touched upon a little bit of raw diets, right? A little bit of
Yeah.
meat-based diets, but they're home cooked.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about what kind of diets can exist for a dog, right? And that the diets that are kind of things that you can do on your own and have. So, for example, raw is one type of diet. Then there would be meat-based but home cooked. What other diets could exist
There
on
are some
that
of my
spectrum?
clients who go for, they are like, and this is one of the problems that exists in India is that they cannot feed meat every day. Like
Hmm.
they are like, we can feed meat twice in a week or thrice in a week, or we can
Okay.
feed this amount of meat and this much amount of veg. So yeah, they also do like a combination of meat and veg ingredients. But in veg ingredients, then I suggest something that is lower on the glycemic index. So this glycemic
Okay.
index is this index of food from 0 to 100. They give a number to the food,
Okay.
and high glycemic is something that will cause higher sugar spikes in the blood, which is not good because that
Understood.
will lead to metabolic stress, and then that will lead to obesity and so many of the other diseases like heart, kidney, liver, everything. It
Right.
impacts every. It's the same in
Right.
humans as well. In humans also, we should have a low glycemic food, something that breaks
Understood.
down easily,
Understood.
something that breaks down slowly.
Right.
So the veg ingredients that are better is rolled oats, quinoa. These are the two ingredients that break down slowly. So they are better for a dog's health in the longer run if you want to feed a vegetarian diet, and you can pair that up with a little bit of meat whenever you can. So this is
Mm-hmm.
one form of diet that, and then there is others that they cannot get meat into the house, so they feed veg. But then I suggest them to add a little bit of kibble also for protein and egg,
Understood. Okay.
because dogs cannot do well on a pure veg
Right.
diet for sure.
Right.
They
Right. So,
cannot metabolize that kind of protein, and yeah,
right.
that.
Right. Understood. So you basically kind of take into account how people, um, I mean, how lifestyles are in every household, and then kind of use that to make the nutrition plan as well, right? Which is fair, I think. Um,
Hmm.
because sometimes I feel like we're so set in our own ways that it takes time to kind of break out of those habits as well. And I think
Yeah,
the more knowledge that is put out there, the more people are kind of willing to do that. So, for example, in my house, my dogs have chicken every day, even though we may not. And that's
hmm.
that's taken some time to kind of get there, because you realize that for them it is probably a necessity on a daily basis, whereas for you it may not be, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like
And that's
everybody just
why,
wants. Go on.
I think there's a plan of action is needed. Like you should discuss a plan of action with a nutritionist. If you're a vegetarian who
Right,
cannot get meat, can get like meat on twice a week, then you should plan
right,
up whether in future you can get more meat and
yeah,
plan things according. Because I have
understood.
seen dog parents who were not able to feed, who were like feeding twice a week,
Hmm.
and then they got on to feeding every day as well. So that change
Hmm.
has also something that I have
Yeah.
observed.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And I think, I mean, this is just stuff that I have kind of taken away from conversations I've had with pet parents. A lot of people have this hesitation before going to a nutritionist, right? Because वो थोड़ा सा डर लगता है that, the meal prep is going to be too complicated for me, right? And on Instagram, people tend to talk about only very complicated meals, right? Like you'll see those
Yes.
raw food diet bowls, and you'll see like those aesthetically kind of arranged, this is what my dog is eating. And people feel a little bit intimidated, right? Should I
Yes.
even do this, because I may not be able to commit to it, and I may not be able to either source those ingredients or be as disciplined in doing it. So I think that's refreshing to hear as well, right? That it is not so much about what you see on the gram, but it's more about your lifestyle and how you can kind of over time reach a stage where you and
Yeah.
your dog live in that like a symbiotic relationship where you are helping them also grow without really sacrificing too much on how you are living
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Because no one is great at doing it since day one, right? Because people get to it after a point of time. They are also not like used to seeing that much of meat every day in their lives.
Right.
Like I'm a vegetarian myself, and I was not used to seeing so much of meat
Yeah.
every. Now my freezer is full of meat. So
Uh,
yeah, I also took time to get there, and dog parents can also plan accordingly with their
yeah.
nutritionist or some other
Yeah.
expert to plan ahead.
Yeah. No, I think that's something that is definitely an important takeaway, right? That it's nothing to be scared of, right? A nutritionist is there to help you. And I feel like that a lot of times, there's this feeling of I will be judged for my choices, which is
Yeah.
what I think is good, because these conversations help clear that whatever it is, an expert will always try to help you kind of do the best thing that you can in your situation, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So I think
Because
let's go. Yeah. Huh.
even like Kibble can be improved, because I have seen like people they have started adding fresh food to their normal Kibble diet, and they have really seen improvements in their dog. So even I
Right.
believe every can be improved at any level.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Okay, so on to the third myth, right? Which is something that I know personally I have been guilty of, right? Which is that I never kind of put my brain to the fact that obviously calorific and nutrient requirements will change, right? So typically you only think of, okay, when they're a puppy, I need to feed them like 4 meals a day and chota karke. Then they grow up, then you reduce. You only think in terms of quantity, right? You don't really think
Yeah.
in terms of what nutrients do they require and how can I kind of change their diet up as they grow.
Yeah.
So how would you kind of take this?
So puppies actually they need a lot of calories. Their
Hmm.
caloric needs are almost like 2 to 3 times higher than the adult counterparts.
Okay.
They literally grow in their sleep also. So they metabolize food so quickly because you need
Yeah.
to feed them 4 times in a day. So just imagine the first meal you feed, till second meal they have metabolized and processed everything in their first meal
Hmm.
that fast. And now, if you don't take care of the caloric and nutrient needs at that stage, then they will be like the growth will be not as great. Uh,
Understood.
and the calcium levels is also something that needs to be taken care of in puppy stage. Then you
Right.
need to also look at the ratios of how much vitamin A and D is going in their diet. Then you need to check whether the minerals are balanced or not. The calcium phosphorus ratio is something that I really stress upon because puppies really need, especially the large breed and the medium sized breeds need a lot of more calcium than the adult counterparts. But
Hmm.
once the dogs reach at an adult stage, and then they can have like a stable kind of caloric intake every day. But
Right.
puppies, it keeps increasing. That's why I ask my clients to get the plan updated every 3 weeks. Because if they
Understood.
are weighing like 10 kgs now, in 3 weeks they'll be weighing 14, 15 kgs. So of course
Yeah.
their caloric needs would have increased, right?
Yeah.
And so have like that the nutrient needs will also increase, and we need to
Yeah.
take care of that.
Yeah.
So that is something that is important
Yeah.
in puppy stage.
Yeah. Also, I think even when dogs get older, right? Like I've seen my partner used to have a Labrador. He passed away a couple of years ago, but in his last years, he had arthritis, which meant he couldn't exercise as much, right? Which meant that weight suddenly became this problem, which it never was. How do you kind of deal with older dogs and more geriatric dogs, because issues then will be very different, right? Kidneys get affected, bones get affected. How do diets change to incorporate that?
So that's why I stress upon complete and balanced diet so much, is because all these things actually happen because of lack or deficiency of some of the other minerals or vitamins.
Right.
Especially what we focus more upon is calcium in the
Hmm.
puppy and adult stage. But what we don't
Right.
understand is that without vitamin D, calcium won't get absorbed in the body. It will just get out. So
Right.
all the nutrients are kind of like interconnected. So
Hmm.
if you really want absorption of one, you need to make sure that the other one is also there in the diet. So if you want calcium to be absorbed and stronger bones, you need to make sure there's enough vitamin D. But now that you have reached the stage where the damage is already done, there's arthritis. I have seen puppies as small as 7 months have hip dysplasia and some form of joint issue. So
Hmm.
I think that these are the minerals and vitamins that I really focus on at the
Right.
senior level. So even manganese, which is lacking in both vegetarian and meat diet. Then vitamin D is also lacking in both of them. It also
Right.
boosts immunity. It also takes care of your joints and
Yeah.
hips
Yeah.
and everything. So
And that's
these
something I
are
think
the
even humans here, right? Vitamin D is a big problem because our bodies are not in the sun as much now, which is why you can't even
yes.
absorb vitamin D.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
In a
think.
study
Hmm.
where
Yeah. Yeah.
there was a study where I think it was like that if you have more vitamin D in your blood, you will not have the corona, or the corona will not be that like detrimental to your health.
Oh,
Something like that.
nice.
Those lines.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot more. There was, I remember, anyway, I don't think that's relevant for this, but I remember there being some study also initially when, you know, a lot of these fake studies started coming in that if you're a smoker, you would not get COVID. And I remember a lot of my friends who smoked got really happy.
If you drink
until one of them,
alcohol,
until one of them got COVID. और फिर हुआ कि हाँ ठीक है. Studies are at one place, but yeah. Awesome. So let's. I think that pretty much covers everything that we had planned. There are a lot of actually questions that have come in. Let's take some of those now. Awesome. So there is one around coconut oil. Is coconut oil safe for dogs? If not, what alternative would you suggest?
So coconut oil have these long chain fatty acids, so which can affect their gut health. So I would suggest an alternative would be an MCT oil, which is still made with coconut, but they have just the medium triglycerides and not the long chain fatty acids. So they are available in India now. Well, so
they're called MCT oils.
Yeah.
Okay.
MCT.
Awesome. Got it. Cool. Okay. There is one question asking, what supplements can we give to a lab puppy?
That depends on your diet. If it's a meat diet, then I will, of course, you need to get balanced and see what deficiencies are. But if it's a veg diet, then oh my God, you need everything. All the supplements.
Diet ही बदल दो. Basically, अगर veg है तो. Awesome. But Vinay, if you want more help with this, you can always DM me later, and I can put you in touch with Arpita, and we can kind of see how to work this out. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Diksha has a question. Is it wrong to give milk every day to an indie puppy?
Yeah, they are lactose intolerant. All dogs are lactose intolerant. You cannot give milk to dogs. What you can give raw goat milk. That is good. So
raw, sorry? Raw what?
Goat milk.
Goat milk.
But in limitation, of course, because
got it.
Lactose.
And what about things like, I'm just building on this, what about things like paneer and curd and all? Sometimes they say that, you know, when they have an upset stomach, you should give like a fast and then give curd. Is that something that's recommended or?
Because it's easier for digestion, right? Once you have, like, your gut is impacted, so you'll need something that's easier to digest. But you can also add some, you can add bone broth. Of course, you can give curd and all, but limitation. Because paneer is pretty high calorie.
Understood. So control obviously the calorie, but I mean the amount that you're giving. But instead of milk, give something like paneer or curd, right? Understood. Okay. So that was that question. Then there was a question that Buddhist girl Burfi wants to ask, which is, what do you think about raw diets? This is a very contentious topic also, I'm sure, right? Because it's, I mean, I'll let you take it. You're the expert.
Dogs really thrive on raw diet. Raw diets, I think, are something that it's the best right now for dogs. But in India, there's one of this issue is that we don't have grass-fed meat, right? They are fed corn and grains and whatnot. So these kind of animals or livestock have a higher bacterial load in their meat.
Okay.
So naturally cooked would be better in India, but if you can get grass-fed and really if you have a good source of meat in India, then you can go.
Understood. But you're saying that it's a little tricky because of the quality of meat as well, right? So it's not just about the diet, but it's also where you're sourcing it from.
Yeah, because in US you have grass-fed meat and in India.
Understood. So source of meat can be a problem. Cool. There is one question around what should we feed lab of 4 years for proper nutrition other than pedigree? ये पूरी conversation इसी के बारे में थी. So I think
so many lab parents.
Yeah. I think just a lot of labs in general also that, and also I feel like a lot more like involved parents when they have labs somehow, or maybe it's just the quantity.
I think you should move away from pedigree and feed fresh diet to your dog. Meat would be great. If you cannot add meat, go for like half fresh diet and half pedigree. And for that half diet, you need to balance that as well and make sure all the nutrients are there. So
Understood. Okay. So try to shift to a home cooked diet, and you can always reach out to Arpita to kind of help you plan that as well. ये वाला interesting question है बड़ा. I read somewhere that vanilla ice cream can be given to dogs. What do you suggest? ये किसी dog
Vanilla,
ने पूछा है. Has a dog asked this question?
yeah, I'm very sure. I think vanilla ice cream. Okay. Once in a while is fine. It also has milk and sugar and whatnot.
Okay.
Oh my God. In moderation. Give curd na, instead. Curd is great.
Okay. You can give curd like in a cone or something, ऐसे freeze
Yeah,
करके
with a
so that they think it's
popsicle or
ice cream.
something.
Awesome. Then there is a question on what all fruits should be fed to a dog, and are citrus fruits good for them?
No, avoid citrus fruits. You can feed
Okay.
all the berries. Berries are great. Blueberries, raspberries, and all this. You can feed apples,
Uh-huh.
bananas. Yeah, papaya is great for metabolizing protein. So these
Okay.
are the fruits. Pomegranate.
Awesome. Awesome. There were a couple of questions in the chat as well. I'm quickly going to go into those. The AP being AP was asking, is it okay to give eggs in summers?
Um, Depends on what other kind of protein there is. If you are
Okay.
feeding meat,
Hmm.
like a cooling kind of meat,
Hmm.
then eggs, don't feed eggs every day, not just in
Okay.
summers because they are very high in omega-6. And until
Okay.
unless you balance it out with omega-3, the other kind of fatty acid, you need to make a balance of these two things. So if you are giving an omega-6 high diet, high omega-6 diet, you need to balance it out with omega-3s like your EPA and DHA in fish oil or flaxseed oil or hemp seed oil.
Understood. Okay.
Balance.
Uh, okay. Sham has a question. How to handle labradors if skin allergies happen in the summer? Could it be a diet-based thing actually? Skin allergies specifically in a certain weather?
Yeah, it can be diet based. If you're giving like very heating proteins, like
Hmm.
if you're feeding goat meat, which is quite heating,
Hmm.
that can lead to skin issues. If you're feeding a high grain diet,
Hmm.
that can also lead to skin issues. And if the fats balance is not that great, like if
Hmm.
you're feeding too high omega-6 diet, then definitely there will be a skin issue.
Understood. Okay. So basically try to not give foods that increase a lot of heat in the summers, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
cooling would be great. Cooling protein like rabbit or duck meat is cooling that can be
Okay.
fed. Or if you
Okay.
cannot feed meat-based diet, then get your fat, dog's fat balance.
Okay.
Add a little omega-3.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Then Manisha has a question. In veg diets, soya, dal, and and vegetables in the form of khichdi, is that acceptable? Let me
Soya.
try answer this. Soya,
Yeah.
dal, and veg. I think answer is great, but a lot of nutrients are missing. So veg diets are not enough.
Difficult to digest. Dal is very difficult to digest. It is high in phytic acids, which will impede the absorption of minerals
Right.
from the intestine. Yeah, so avoid the legumes.
Okay. Avoid dal entirely, or like give. What is your matlab, avoid entirely, or is it like a quantity control thing?
So, yeah, control the quantity definitely because dogs will not be able to digest it for sure. 50 to
Okay.
60 grams of cooked dal would be fine,
Okay.
but cook it thoroughly so that all the phytates are destroyed.
Understood. Got it. Cool. I think that's all the questions in the chat. There was one question around curd rice. Is that something that's okay for dogs?
Rice has a very, very high glycemic load, which we
Huh.
want to avoid at all costs. So switch to oats or quinoa.
Okay.
That is better.
Okay.
But rolled oats, the instant one.
Okay. Understood. Is there any ideal ratio? I'm just throwing questions at you for the next 2 minutes till you get tired. Is there any ideal ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 for adult maintenance diet, raw slash cooked?
Bulls in the wild used to eat omega 6 to 3 1:1, which is not possible in the modern world at all. But
Hmm.
if you even if you achieve like 4 is to 1 of omega 6 to 3, that will be amazing.
Hmm.
Please.
Okay, awesome. There's one actually really interesting question that Sag is asking. I don't know if his name is Sag or if the so forgive me if I'm it's Sagar probably. Okay. So how do we know that our dog has deficiencies, right? And that's an important question. What are the signs of having a calcium or other mineral deficiencies? What should people be looking out for?
Um, okay. So, for example, there is a zinc deficiency. I just spoke to someone a few days back. The dog
Yeah.
has a chronic zinc deficiency and has skin issues. So, if you see skin issues, and if you're feeding a meat diet and everything is balanced and everything, there is a possibility that there is either biotin deficiency, zinc deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, vitamin A excess, something like that on those lines. Calcium deficiency, of course, the bones will be weak.
Understood.
That you will see in the puppy state itself. Your puppy will not be as strong.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, calcium is quite evident in dogs.
Okay. So you say evident in terms of bone structure.
Bone structure, you will see weaker bones and weaker structure. You will like be able to tell by the way they are maybe walking or something that
Okay.
if there's some form of limping or something, then that there's definitely a joint or a
Okay.
bone issue.
Huh.
Then if they are getting chronically ill all the time, there's a vitamin D problem. Because
Okay.
most of it is so high in vitamin A that vitamin D gets deficient. That's something that
Understood.
will.
Okay. And we also spoke about skin issues, right? So that could also be a diet-based thing, or any kind of allergy that you kind of see. That could also be something that is pertaining to diet. So I think
Yeah.
those are good ways to keep an eye out for problems that you may not see as immediate issues, but it could eventually lead to problems in their lives. Right? Um, okay, so I think let's just take a last question because I'm just conscious of the time as well. There is a question on wheat and chapatis, right? In the age of whether it's a puppy or an adult. I think we can maybe make it a little broader and talk about grain in diets specifically, right? There's a lot of debate around grain or grain
Yeah.
free. What is your take on it?
Um, like I said, you should look for all the grains which are on the lower end of the glycemic index,
Right.
because if the grains are carbs, right? So if they break down very quickly in the body of your dog, there'll be
Hmm.
sugar spikes, there'll be high cortisol, high insulin, which is not good, because that
Right.
will lead to glycemia, that will affect the tissues, organs, everything in the longer run. So you
Right.
need to make sure that you are feeding at least 60% of grains which are on the lower side of the glycemic index. Like we have, like I said, rolled oats and quinoa, but there are others as well. There is barley, but barley has a little bit of gluten, so that is one of the issue. But it
Mm-hmm.
is very low glycemic index. Then there is jawar, I think we call
Mm-hmm.
it sorghum or something.
Right.
That also is on the lower side of the glycemic index.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can look at the chart of glycemic index and select the grains which are on the lower end.
Understood. But in terms of how there is this one camp that believes in feeding non-grain diets or like grain-free diets. Is it a health issue, or is it just, I mean, one of those things that people want to and prefer to give? Are there any
It is
health concerns from giving grains?
Yeah, there are health concerns. Yes,
Hmm.
high carbs diet is something that dogs cannot metabolize because they lack the enzyme to break down carbs.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
yeah, they can break down protein and fats really well. They can use fats for energy, but
Right.
carbs should be limited in their diet. And if you
Understood.
want to add carbs, then please add the low glycemic ones, because there are so many of the grains which are low glycemic. So those can be added.
Understood. Understood. So can be added. So is there any benefit of adding carbs in any quantity, or is that also it's more like a filler?
If functional carbs can be added, yeah, those are
Okay.
fillers, because
Okay.
not because there are so many vegetarian households and not everyone can afford meat-based diet. So yeah,
Right.
those are fillers. But carbs which are good are the fruits and vegetables, the functional ones. They
Right.
are high in chemicals, which are really great for a dog.
Understood. So Himanshu is asking, are oats good? Arpita just said oats, quinoa, jowar, right? Those are three grains that you can probably try because they're lower on the glycemic index.
But the rolled
Um,
oats, not the instant ones.
Rolled oats. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, awesome. I think this has been amazing, and I think we should definitely have you on a more regular basis because the number of questions that have come in today I don't think we've ever got on any other thing. And there are still questions that I'm not going to pick up just because I'm conscious of the time as well. So anybody who feels that their questions haven't been addressed, please DM me and I will get you the right answers. Thank you so much, Arpita, for doing this. Really had fun speaking to you, and I think it was very educational for me personally, definitely, and I'm sure for everybody watching as well. And yeah, thank you so much for taking out the time to do this.
Thank you. Thank you. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.